again to Movies That Pop. I'm the Kernel. Let's see what popped up in theaters this week. Today sees the release of the glorious mess, Pan, a movie with a title that practically invites you to give it a negative review. Well, invitation accepted, Pan. There's one thing that you can say in this movie's favor. It certainly isn't lazy. The movie as a whole is terrible, but nobody decided to tell the cast, who crank up their performances like they're playing to the mezzanine on Broadway. Also missing the memo, the production designer, visual effects companies, and the composer, all of whom do great work building up the grandeur of this piece so highly that there are many moments where the film promises to break out of its mediocrity and become a great guilty pleasure visual thrill ride. This movie may provide the inattentive, and I'm thinking of potheads or very small children, with some visually arresting amusement. But for anyone in their halfway right mind, the whole thing will collapse under the smallest amount of scrutiny. All too often while watching this movie, I stood aghast at what I was seeing, trying to analyze whether I was horrified or impressed at its audacity, just wondering, what the hell am I looking at? At which prism should I be watching this through? Eventually, after much contemplation, I came to this sad conclusion.
This is shit, isn't it?
Yep. Solid gold shit, Maestro.
You hear that? You can put that on the poster in quotes. Solid gold! Put the Kernel right next to it. You're welcome. That's it for the capsule review. Now let's get in-depth. Wicked, Maleficent, Jack the Giant Slayer, and a whole host of others. Now what is up with the current trend of retconning our fairy tales? They're classics, without the need to be made fresh or palatable for today's audiences. Sometimes, as is the case with Wicked, it works on its own as a completely separate work of art that works independent of the source material. Other times, as is the case with Pan, it just seems to be trying too hard to pilfer from your favorite tales instead of augment them. I'll start with the good stuff. This film looks and sounds great, especially in 3D. Its perfectly awful story is wrapped up in such a pretty package that it's easy to forget from time to time that you were throwing your popcorn at the screen just a few moments ago. The eye candy here is delicious indeed. The airborne ship fights are pretty cool, especially when they start shooting cannonballs at each other in midair. There are buoyant fights on a trampoline and guns which turn their targets into tufts of multicolored smoke. It's fun and inventive. Until someone opens their mouth and ruins it. As mentioned, this cast really goes for it, with the exception of Rooney Mara as Tiger Lily. And for the record, can we just agree that it's silly to get upset that a Caucasian actress has been cast as Tiger Lily, a character who was Indian in the original Peter Pan and whose description has been changed to Native American in our politically correct culture, despite the fact that this isn't America. It's a fantastical, fictional place called Neverland, so even Native American just sounds silly in this context. Anyhow, Rooney Mara, she's perfectly fine here, but she doesn't seem to commit, at least not on the level of the rest of the cast, led by Hugh Jackman, who's hamming it up and using all his theatrical talents, including singing, to bring mustache twirling to new heights. Well, as long as he's having fun. And if you ever wanted to see what would happen if Sawyer were played by Nicolas Cage, well then, I present to you Garrett Hedlund as James Hook.
If I'm gonna trust you, I need to know your name.
It's Hook. The name's James Hook. Happy?
No! I'm afraid of heights.
What? You can fly! Yeah! We're sailing now!
And those are the bright spots of the cast. Now the kid that they got to play Peter Pan, Levi Miller, is just annoying. Not as bad as Jake Lloyd from Star Wars The Phantom Menace, who wasn't trying hard enough, but Miller is trying too hard, along with the rest of the cast. On an adult, trying too hard can read as campy fun, as it does with Hugh Jackman or Garrett Hedlund. But when a child is overacting, and he's the lead, so he does it through the entire film, it's just aggravating. An entire host of unnecessary and conflicting elements are added to this origin story, like a prophecy, long-lost parents, and both children and full-grown adults who are kidnapped from our world to, mine pixie dust for a pirate named Blackbeard? Ugh. None of it enriches the story, it barely makes coherent sense, and the main driving motivations of most of the main characters are so paper-thin or poorly developed, probably because they've all been lifted from other, better movies that put in the legwork, that none of the drama feels authentic. For example, Blackbeard exploits slave labor to provide him with a steady supply of pixium, which is where pixie dust comes from, because it keeps him young and, good looking. A trait which is ripped off from the character Mother Gothel in the movie Tangled. The indigenous birds in Neverland look exactly like the Kevin bird from Up, and the Han Solo-ish Hook has a love story with the Princess Leia-ish Tiger Lily. So basically, these characters share nothing in common with the Hook and Tiger Lily that you know, except for their characters' names. And then there's the curious idea to have the characters sing pop songs apropos of nothing, but instead of going full Moulin Rouge and becoming a crazy pants musical, the movie doesn't commit fully, and instead delivers a half-assed introduction to Neverland showing characters kidnapped from the 1940s alongside pirates, including Blackbeard, singing Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit. In short, it's an abomination. The singing thing only happens once or twice more in the movie, and then the whole conceit is abandoned, which makes you wonder, why did they bother in the first place? For a movie crammed so full of ideas, the whole mess feels strangely empty. On the other hand, with such glorious set pieces and so many eye-popping 3D effects, it sure does look pretty. It's like going on a date with a supermodel, who turns out to be a rabid racist. Sure, it's all exciting at first, and she's really great to look at, but then as the conversation continues, the date turns into a sort of a mild curiosity, and you want to just ignore her faults and be like, okay, she's eccentric, but I can live with that. But then another thing she says offends you, and another, and by the time you're halfway through your entree, you're yelling, I reject you, madam! I reject you, and everything you stand for. You are wrong! And if you were thinking about dessert, you can think again. Wait, they have chocolate lava cake? Okay, there will be dessert, but we're sharing it. And I get to poke it and make the chocolate ooze out, not you. Okay? Now just sit there and look pretty. I give Pan a small bag of popcorn, only for the fact that there were moments, when despite everything, I gasped, I marveled, and for the briefest of seconds, I actually had fun. But Pan has too many elements that I just could not abide. The weak plot, the overacting, the just plain weird musical numbers. This movie poops the bed so badly, you just want to hit it on the nose with a rolled up newspaper and say, no. No, no, that's a bad movie. Bad movie. No. All right, that does it for this edition of Movies That Pop. Don't forget to leave your comments on this review below and also click a thumbs up to indicate your approval. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss one of our reviews. We'll be back with more new reviews of the latest movies. In the meantime, thanks for watching. I'm the Kernel, and think happy thoughts. I'm out of here. Bye!